The big-time swagger, 16 points per game. And on the other side, featured for Pitt, wow, Jamarius Burton, a big, talented power guard around 6'4". You're going to love his old-school mid-range approach. In the ACC, Doug, he's getting 20 points per game.
We are set for basketball with first place in the ACC on the line. Federico jumping center against P.J. Hall, and it's the Tigers with the basketball first in their tiger orange, and that's not purple, that is regalia trimming those uniforms.
I didn't even know that's a color. Regalia?
Regalia. And of course the Panthers in their home whites. P.J. Hall found the senior for the throwdown. Hunter Tyson, averaging 15.5 per game, has his first 2 of the afternoon.
Yeah, and when you play Clemson, they're the best three-point shooting team in the ACC. That pulls the defense out. Tyson got 3 on the baseline. Big-time finish.
Cummings back out to Elliott. Into the corner for 3. Around it out for Burton. This is Chase Hunter, redshirt junior from Atlanta, who has grown into that starting point guard role this season for Clemson. Hall tees it up. A little strong on that one. Clemson's been shooting the basketball so well from distance this year. Panthers, meanwhile, line up with a whole bunch of new faces. We've talked a lot this year about how well Jeff Capel and his staff have done in the transfer portal.
Yeah, remember last year, Jeff Capel said that our scoring was not good enough. They were dead last in the ACC. Well, they're up to 75 points a game. Scoring is not a problem.
Met at the rim by Federico, who was called for the foul, but I love the action as the freshman Ian Shefflin found the cutting teammate on the back door.
And that's the kind of rim protection that is so impressive from Federico. You know, he's like, here's a comparison. How about Clint Capella of the Atlanta Hawks? Elite rim protection. He runs the court. He's a lob threat, and he's going to get better and better because he's so young to basketball.
But he picks up his first personal foul on Hunter Tyson. One of only 9 players in the country averaging a double-double this year. Tyson, 15.5 points, 10 rebounds per game, which is 3rd best in the ACC, 9th in the country. And now that he is healthy, he's had a career marked by academic excellence, significant broken bones the last couple of years, a facial fracture 2 years ago, missed 5 games, then played with a mask, had a broken clavicle last February, cost him 8 games. But perseverance, Tim, he has improved and now playing at an All-ACC level.
The other thing he brings is a little bit of toughness. He talks some trash. He's the attitude for this Clemson team.
Here's Brevin Galloway off the bounce.
I look at this matchup and feel like Pitt has a substantial advantage on the glass, especially in the offensive boards.
Panthers are on the board thanks to the triple from Jamarius Burton.
Offensively, a lot to like for the Tigers. High skill, deep playbook. They run a ton of set plays, but never forget the fact that they rely heavily on threes. 39% top 20 in college basketball. Shot clock.
Down to 6. Galloway this time finds the range. He is on the board in his 3rd stop after 5 years at the College of Charleston. Then last year at Boston College. Now his 7th year in college. He is 25 years old. And he's not the only one in the country. There are 9 guys 25 years or older playing college basketball. There's some of that old school game we're looking forward to from Blake Hinson.
Blake Hinson was at Iowa State the last 2 years. Why did he transfer to Pitt? Why did they let him get away? He wasn't even in their plans, and he's exploded this year. He's got a really good chance to be All-ACC.
He's another 3rd stop guy, a couple of years at Ole Miss, then the last 2, as you said, at Iowa State, where he did not play for the Cyclones. P.J. Hall is on the board, 8-5, Clemson with the early lead.
One of the reasons, Doug, that I expect an even matchup, Pitt has really good guards. I think that's their advantage, and I really like Clemson's big guys. See, guards versus bigs, the real good contrasted style.
There's Nellie Cummings. has his pass deflected. He's coming off a marvelous game in the win over Virginia. 8 assists to 0 turnovers. And his recovery sets up Hinson for 3 more. 5 points for the 6th leading scorer in the ACC. You see the Panthers have won 10 of their last 11 during that time. Scoring has not been a problem. Nearly 79 points per game. 11-4 overall and looking to go to 5-0. Cummings blocked the shot by Chase Hunter. Hinson fakes the handoff. Going to be called for an offensive foul. The freshman, Ian Shefflin, sticking his chin in there. And the charge against number 2 and white. Timeout here at the Peterson Event Center. All college basketball coaches in every conference will tell you do not put any stock in the preseason poll. Well, certainly this year, the ACC at this point, you'd put no stock in where Clemson and Pittsburgh were picked to finish because right now both teams are undefeated through 4 regular season ACC games.
And Doug, they've done it in completely different ways. Think about this. Clemson developed their best players who are seniors. They've been in the program. They're older. They understand what is expected. And Pitt on the other side, they hit the portal gold mine. Their best players came in from other teams. Once again, though, they're veteran guys. Think about Hinson, Cummings, and Elliott for Pitt. Average 40 points per game.
And for Clemson, this doesn't happen every day, but maybe we had a glimpse at the end of last regular season when Clemson won its last 4 regular season ACC games. Chase Hunter with a turnaround. So that means they've won 8 games in a row in ACC play in regular season games. That's an all-time Clemson record. And don't forget, the Tigers are a charter member going way back in the Atlantic Coast Conference. They've had a couple of starts like this in their history. We talked about the Rick Barnes team back in 96-97. The last time they went 4-0, they won their first 5 games and ultimately wound up in the Sweet 16. And then you go back to the 86-87 team, led by head coach Cliff Ellis. Horace Grant was the star player that year. They started off 4-0. That team also wound up in the NCAA tournament. And what we've seen out of Clemson, Tim, makes you think this could be a tournament team. I
see both of these teams playing the NCAA tournament. I don't think what they're doing, there's no smoke and mirrors. They're fundamentally sound. They're tough on defense. And they have all kinds of chemistry on the offensive end.
Nikki Sabandi has come into the game. This is Nellie Cummings off the bounce, left it short. P.J. Hall the rebound, and here comes Clemson. Galloway pushes it into the front court. The freshman guard, Josh Beadle, who has come into the game. This is the redshirt freshman. Into Shefflin, who goes to work along the baseline and lays it in.
How smart is that? Shefflin, seeing that Federico is at the top of the key covering Hall, he knew that there's no post resistance at all.
Shefflin's a 6'7" sophomore from Loganville, Georgia. He started his college career off with a bang. 20 points, 14 rebounds in his collegiate debut back in November against the Citadel. 7 to shoot. Nellie Cummings into the lane. Picks up the dribble. Needs to find a teammate. Sabandi's in trouble. 2 to shoot. He puts it up. And that is a shot clock violation.
And how good is the defense by Shefflin? He has the beautiful low post Kevin McHale move at one end. And on the other side, he stops Cummings in one-on-one. He doesn't look like an above-the-rim athlete, Doug, but he certainly has good footwork.
Beadle, tough pass, threading the needle. It's another layup for Shefflin.
It's kind of interesting. Sometimes your scouting reports focus on the headliners so much that a guy like Shefflin comes in underappreciated, gets off to a quick start.
6-0 Clemson run coming out of the timeout, and we've got a foul against Chase Hunter, who has made a big jump this year. Fully healthy, redshirt junior out of Westlake High School in Atlanta. And he has his game rolling, and with that, Tim, no surprise, his confidence is at an all-time high. Off the turnover, Beadle tries to track it down. The officials confer, and Lee Cassell, nearest to the play, says it'll go the other way to Pittsburgh.
Pitt's a really good one-on-one team. I love them in high ball screen action. Their spacing is elite. And against Clemson, if you can spread them out, a couple things happen. You find those driving gaps. More importantly, I don't trust Clemson on the defensive glass.
Scheffler clears the Cummings miss. Hunter turns the corner, pulls up, and he gets a friendly roll here at the Pitt. It's an 8-0 Clemson run.
This is a trip that you try to get a nice roll to the basket for Hinson. He's going to be a tough cover for Clemson.
Nike Sabandi misfires. He had perhaps the highlight of the year so far for Pittsburgh in the win Tuesday against Virginia, the big slam dunk. Galloway cut off by Federico. Hall takes an extra step and is called for traveling.
Chase Hunter was always a shooting guard, even some small forward, but with the departure of 2 point guards from last year, he stepped into the starting role. Nice mid-range game, good touch, but think about, not only does he need to run the offense, which is new for him, he's got to chase the opposing point guards. He's run off screens nonstop. I think conditioning has been a massive improvement for Hunter.
Yeah, with the transfers out of Nick Honor to Missouri, he's playing well for a much improved Tigers team. And Alamir Dawes, who's averaging 11 per game at Seton Hall. There were minutes in the Clemson backcourt available this year, and so Beadle has stepped in. R.J. Godfrey, who we have yet to see, has stepped in. But it's Galloway coming from BC and Hunter stepping up his game that have really seen the biggest jump.
Yeah, I agree with you, and I want to take a minute to focus on the play of Blake Hinson. We really enjoy talking to him, Doug, and when you look at those shoulders on him, it's not surprising that in high school he was a tight end. He was recruited by a lot of SEC schools, including Georgia and LSU. And he said that the physicality that he learned as a football player helps him when he drives to the basket. He absorbs contact. He seeks shoulder-to-shoulder contact, and that helps his finishing.
Well, among the things he shared with us is he was offered by a number of SEC schools to be a tight end to play football, just like his brother did. His brother was a big-time football player as well. Evan was a tight end at South Carolina while also playing hoops for the Gamecocks. Actually, he was a reserve wing on Frank Martin's Final Four team in 2017. But from what we gather and talking to the coaches, Blake wasn't so much wanting to deal with the physicality of football. He likes being the tough guy in basketball, but in football he said, you know what, I'll let other people play that. Although I'll tell you what, as P.J. Hall scores inside for Clemson, Blake Hinson apparently recently said to the coaching staff, if we make it to the Sweet 16, can I play spring football for Pittsburgh? They immediately said no, but then responded, well, if we make it to the Elite Eight, we'll talk about it then.
That's good. That's a good deal. That helps everybody out.
As a matter of fact, Pat Narduzzi, the Pitt football coach, is in attendance here this afternoon. Clemson on an 8-0 run.
I see a great future for you.
Tomorrow at 2 Eastern on ABC and the ESPN app, we'll have the FCS championship game between North Dakota State and South Dakota State at Toyota Stadium in Frisco, Texas. The Bison are the defending champs, but the #1 seed is the Jackrabbits. Should be a good one tomorrow at 2 Eastern. There's the head football coach here at the University of Pittsburgh, Pat Narduzzi. See if we can get him to turn around. He's been here since well before the game. The Oakland Zoo, which filled up as soon as the gates opened, started going doos when he walked in. At first I thought they were booing somebody, and then you said, wait a second, that's the football coach of the Panthers, and the students are making their way back to campus, coming back from the Christmas break. Classes resume on Monday, and so I think many of them took advantage to be here this afternoon.
Coach Narduzzi received a lot of good information about his former players. Kenny Pickett is playing very, very well as the playoffs approach, and also the big news, right?
No doubt about it. As Burton makes 1 out of 2, of course, Damar Hamlin, ever since his cardiac event in Cincinnati on Monday night, has been the story in the country, and we're so glad to be able to share continuing good news on his recovery at the University of Cincinnati Medical Center. And of course, the folks here at the University of Pittsburgh remember his days fondly, playing for Coach Narduzzi. And as a matter of fact, he was a AAU basketball teammate of Pitt point guard Nellie Cummings. They played in this building for Curtis Aiken. They had practice here and then played games elsewhere. There's Curtis Aiken, the former Pitt great, longtime radio analyst for the Panthers. He coached a team called the Wright Brothers, including Nellie Cummings and Damar Hamlin. And Curtis was telling me before the game that Damar Hamlin was good enough to play Division I college basketball. Maybe not at the ACC level, but he was that kind of hoopster, as well as being one of the top football recruits in the country.
So happy for the news about his recovery, and had a chance to go up with fans today and sign a banner in honor of Hamlin.
Nice.
And the line was very, very long. Doug, I remember 1971 being a young kid in Detroit. Chuck Hughes for the Detroit Lions died on the field. It's the only time that's happened. And when I saw Hamlin go down, it just sent shivers.
Well, it's horrifying. No question about it. We're so glad that he continues to regain his health.
And so far, Clemson shooting 8 for 11 from the field. I think that Pitt may want to consider some zone.
Cummings after the takeaway. Panthers trying to get rolling, down by 9. Cummings uses the screen. Sabandi penetrates, tries to dump it off. Ben Middlebrook's got a hand on the pass. Burton with a great shot fake. Burton loses it, and then the foul call comes. You heard the skin-on-skin contact, and Burton looked at the official and said, "What took you so long?"
I agree with that. It was a late call, but today at shoot-around, Jeff Capel was saying that our advantage has to be on the offensive glass. Pitt has long athletes. They attack, and let's take a look underneath. There's a little push by Hall. He had good position. And going up, Burton's got that old school game. He loves the mid-range. Middlebrooks was straight up and down, but I thought it was a good call.
Burton skips to the corner. 3 ball off the mark by Hinson, and a foul on the floor is going to go against Clemson and against their promising freshman R.J. Godfrey, coming off his best game as a Tiger. 10.6 rebounds at Virginia Tech in the win over the Hokies on the 4th. Had a couple of block shots as well. All that in only 16 minutes, but the postscript is he also had 5 fouls and fouled out of that ballgame.
Well, at shoot-around, Brad Brownell was telling RJ, said, look, you've got to play without knocking people to the floor. He's got a pretty good football bloodline, too.
No doubt. Jamarius Burton buries the 3. He's at 44% on the year. Coming in, you see 2 out of 3 so far this afternoon. Draws Pitt back to within a half a dozen. Godfrey lost it on the way up. Nicely done defensively by Guillermo Diaz-Graham. Burton for 3. Got it. Double figures for the grad student out of Independence High School in Charlotte. Hunter Tyson answers with a triple and quiets the crowd.
Tyson likes talking, doesn't he?
We have seen that swagger from him all year. At 6'8", 217 pounds, putting together a season worthy of first-team All-ACC.
Yeah, when you walk into a tough environment, you want a guy like Tyson to say, I'm with him.
Bad pass by Burton. And then a foul on the entry pass against Guillermo Diaz-Graham.
Earlier today, we talked to Burton, and I term him as a tough cover. He studies DeMar DeRozan of the Chicago Bulls, and he's always seeking that mid-range game. At the other end, you've got a little sit down and shut up music from Tyson. You know, Federico is back in the game. It was a good idea to go into the paint with him on the bench, but he brings shot blocking. Keep shooting those jump shots, guys.
P.J. Hall goes to the jump hook, and the length of Federico was no problem. Here's Greg Elliott. Burton. He He is now 3 of 5 from beyond the arc. Hunter with a head of steam. No, everything but the finish.
I like the pace of this game for Pitt. They have not been efficient offensively. Wow,
Sabandi
deliver.
Federico, though, missed the layup. Well, Sabandi is considered by Jeff Capel his 6th starter, and he is electric coming off the bench. Over 1,600 career points. Under 8 minutes remaining in the first half. There you see Sabandi's numbers in the big win over the Hoos on Tuesday, including that highlight reel slam dunk. 4 to shoot. Hall fires. Burton to Elliott. On the pull-up over Hall, no. And Hall pulls down the rebound.
The 3 losses for Clemson this year, there were 2 issues that they had to address today. Number 1, slow starts. Check that off. Really good start. And the second one was poor defensive rebounding. They've been great so far.
Hall slipped the screen and then the reverse to avoid Federico. Well, P.J. Hall played through a stress reaction all last year on his left foot, had that surgically repaired, and then in the offseason had a knee injury. He's still not back to 100%, but he's so much better than he was a year ago. Contact on the drive and the pass, and that is foul number 2 against R.J. Godfrey. P.J. Hall, a top 50 recruit coming out of Dorman High School, looking to lead Clemson to a 5-0 start to the ACC season.
It's forever. It's bow time.
So let's enjoy the work of Pitt basketball. And Jeff Capel has been on a really interesting run. Think about this. 1-3 record in November. They got crushed by West Virginia and Michigan, then lost a close one to VCU. A lot of fans here were ready to move on from Jeff Capel, but since then they've responded. 10 of 11 wins, a massive success story, one of the best in all of college basketball. And Doug, he really pointed to that West Virginia game with a lot of new players as being a time that he felt like they were really down.
But he never lost the optimism that this group could come together. He liked what he had seen out of them. But even though they beat Alabama State on November 20th at 1-3, they struggled in the first half of that game, but eventually it started to gel, and we have seen the fruits of the labor. And in this day and age with the transfer portal, I would assume as a coach you just don't know how the pieces are necessarily going to fit, but at this point, after that rough start, the Panther pieces have fit perfectly.
They have, and top 6 players on the Panthers are all transfers. 13 different schools, and they're number 2 in college basketball in experience. It's just they're not experienced for Pittsburgh.
There you see 4 of those 5 guys are new to the program this year. Jamarius Burton was with the Panthers last year after making his 2nd transfer, a couple years at Wichita State, 1 year at Texas Tech. But again, these are older guys. They have done a lot of winning at their previous stops, and they are not looking elsewhere. They are very much present and trying to make something special happen here in Pittsburgh this season. Rising up, Hinson got 3 more.
Wow. Doug, when I look at the play so far of Hinson and Burton, this team's undefeated in league. Who do you pick as your all-league guy? Because they certainly both get an argument for it.
Offensive foul against Ian Shefflin. Well, to answer your question, Tim, I don't think there's a wrong answer. Between those 2 guys, Burton and Hinson have both been so valuable and so good for Pitt that assuming you're not going to put them both on the first team, whichever way you go at this point, again, we got a long way to go. We're 2 months into a 4-month season. Either one of them could be a first teamer.
I was trying to put together a team, and even though it's January 7th, I know some people are going to be really mad at me for leaving out their players. Armando Bacot is the obvious one. I think Tyree Appleby is as well from Wake. Isaiah Wong is on Miami, and he's been stellar. I personally picked Jamarius Burton because I think he's a little bit more of a catalyst and playmaker. And the one guy that I would say is obvious is Hunter Tyson. Now who do you pick? Do you have Burton or would
Well, I took Hinson. I mean, we did the same exercise, and because you're a former first-round pick, they build your graphic. I've just got to tell mine.
I see it's written on a tissue there. Is that?
But there are other guards who I would put into the mix along. I love Isaiah Wong. I have been on the Wong bandwagon since he was a freshman, like Kihei Clark at Virginia, Jaquavion Smith at NC State. Caleb Love had a good game today for North Carolina in the win over Notre Dame with 18 points.
Love may be the best NBA prospect in the league, but maybe a little bit inconsistent over the last week.
Scheffler. Good ball movement. Clemson's been very well attached, and now on 12 made field goals, Tim, 9 assists.
All 5 starters have scored, but the thing I like the most about Clemson, plus 14 points in the paint. They are totally inside out. Now here's a 5-pass possession, and that's the way that you take a good defense and neutralize them. Look at the spacing. Get inside, kick it out. Everybody's looking to turn a good shot into a great shot. That was the best offensive trip for the Tigers so far.
Tim, you mentioned earlier, Brad Brownell's club is 16th in the nation at 39% shooting from beyond the three-point line, which is tops in the ACC. And actually, if you add in Alex Hemingway, who is missing his 4th consecutive game because of plantar fasciitis, he is at 50%. Their usual starting 5 for Clemson are 42% from three-point line.
I agree with you. Hemingway is their best shooter. They go from being really good to great from beyond the arc. And that plantar fasciitis is hard to deal with. Doug, plantar fasciitis is a Latin word that means sore foot. I've had plantar fasciitis. It hurt. I don't know what. I don't know if it's a tendon or a muscle or it just hurts.
That University of Michigan education coming into play. Well, clearly the folks here in Pittsburgh and Jeff Capel not liking that call, saying what? How did Blake Hinson use his chin to foul the elbow of Brevin Galloway, who gets 1 out of 2 from the line? Long rebound comes to Jamarius Burton. 31-24, 5 minutes to go in the first half in this matchup of ACC undefeateds.
Well, Hunter Tyson is doing a fabulous job defensively on Burton.
Long 2 by Cummings off the mark. Hunter Tyson, who can be a rebounding machine with another board. Galloway back to Tyson, wide open. You know, they shoot it so well from the perimeter because of that ball movement. They get a lot of wide open looks.
Toes on the line, take a little half of a breath, just relax and shoot it like it's practice.
Be shot ready and take it in rhythm. Here's Elliott. Well, you know that young man from going way back at your camps in the Detroit area.
Greg Elliott is just he's a gem of a person. Jeff Capel said that he is an elite leader, great shooter. He's a winning player, Doug.
Greg Elliott's first 3 points of the afternoon has brought the Panthers back to within 4 in this showdown of ACC unbeatens at the beat.
Fonz and Coach in studio coming up at the half. Much more on that dominant win by Alabama. Plus, questions still there regarding Duke. Fonz, a lot to like about Clemson offensively.
Well, I love their spacing and their patience offensively. Ball screen situations, they don't panic set. They look across the floor and find open shooters they've been able to knock down the 3 of 6.
I agree with you, Fonz. Brad Brownell is the most underappreciated coach in the ACC. All he does is figure out a way to win. And by the way, Tim McCormick, I'm working with a big guy. You big guys are high maintenance.
Oh, boy. You know, let me tell you a funny story about Seth. When I went to 5-star basketball camp when I was in 10th grade, Seth Greenberg was my coach, and he never threw the ball into the low post back then. Shoot it, guard. Don't go inside.
Well, you were a parade All-American who clearly were able to overcome your coaching at 5-star. Paul Jerome Hall with the misfire. Named for both his father, Jerome, and his grandfather, Paul, who we understand at 88 years young, is watching from his home in Atlanta this afternoon. Your grandson and his Clemson Tigers up 4 with 3.5 minutes remaining in the half.
Yeah, with this lineup, Burton's got to take over.
Here goes Elliott, and he is fouled on his drive at the bucket by Brevin Galloway. Well, P.J. Hall grew up in Spartanburg, South Carolina, in a basketball family. His father, Jerome, played at Wofford back in the late 80s and early 90s. Over 1,000 points and 500 rebounds. He's number 40 there. And he played for a team that was coached by, well, there he is now as a Division I official. But Wofford had Mike Young on the staff, the current Virginia Tech head coach, and he has stayed in basketball. Jerome Hall is an official who is in the Southern Conference among other leagues. Obviously, they don't ever put father and son on the same floor together, but they were in an event in Greenville earlier this year where Dad Jerome officiated the game before Clemson played. And they just love the sport of basketball and very, very close.
Well, PJ used to go to games with his dad, and they would talk about what happened during the game. And PJ said that he's learned to take advantage of angles. And his dad always said, don't get a foul in the first 4 minutes. He's not going to be happy because PJ has 2 fouls already.
Dad's going to have something to talk about after the game. PJ is so appreciative for the upbringing that he had. And you could see on his face, Tim, when we spoke to him, just how special those trips to watch his dad officiate college basketball games were when he was a youngster.
Well, you get free popcorn when you're a referee. I get it. The unsung hero in this game has been Ian Shefflin, and I think he's a luxury item. This Clemson team struggled on the glass early in the season, and when they moved Hunter Tyson to the small forward position, they immediately became a better rebounding team. That's more minutes for Shefflin.
Shefflin with 6 points in that starting role. And again, the Tigers are playing without Alex Hemingway, their sharpshooting guard, who is out with a foot injury. Ellie Cummings now with 4 points. The grad transfer out of Midland, Pennsylvania, about 40 miles from here. Lincoln Park Charter, who's so happy to be back at his hometown school for his final year of eligibility. High-low pass from Hall, taken away. Here come the Panthers with a chance to tie or take the lead. Cummings steps back for the tie. He's got it. First tie since 8-8.
Don't be surprised. Pitt fell down early against North Carolina by double digits. They fell down early against Virginia by double digits, came back and won both of those games.
Josh Beadle. And one of the twins wound up on the deck because of a Clemson foul. Back up is Guillermo Diaz-Graham. P.J. Hall picks up the first foul, and as you see there, the winner will gain sole possession of first place in the ACC. A couple of days ago, we had 3 undefeated teams in league play, but Miami suffered its first league loss, leaving these 2 as the only one standing for now.
Stepping to the line, Guillermo Diaz-Graham. He and his twin brother are young players that definitely want to work hard. When practice was over today, shoot-around was over, they both were the 2 guys that stayed on the court shooting with their coaches.
Well, Guillermo's the older and taller of the twins and actually acts like it. Even though they are twins, he carries himself like...
Much older.
That I didn't get. But he carries himself in a manner that he's the big brother, both literally and figuratively. And they, not surprisingly, have an innate understanding of where each other is going to be on the floor and where they're going to be. It really is something else. Beadle again. If you're Clemson, he's not the guy you want shooting that 3-ball. And he has missed his last 2. A very good shooting team. Pitt enjoying its first lead. Now it's up to 3 on the straight line drive by Burton. As advertised, Burton and Hinson leading the way for the Panthers. Following Nelly Cummings.
So school is in session for Burton, and he said that in watching film, he feels like when he drives, Clemson is going to go into drop coverage, especially in pick and roll. That's perfect for a floater and a mid-range game. And don't be surprised by Burton's elite scoring against North Carolina. 31 points. He missed a couple free throws late, though, and he said it was too much adrenaline.
Yeah, he said he always has to think about what his mom tells him to catch your breath, focus, and take your time at the free throw line.
Listen to Mom.
Well, Jamarius along with Hunter Tyson are the reigning co-ACC Players of the Week because of their most recent performances. Burton with those 31 points where he was 14 of 17 from the floor. Santos misses, and the over-the-back foul called on Guillermo Diaz-Graham.
I want to find out from my mom how come she never talked to me about adrenaline.
Well, did your mom play at Alabama A&M?
She did not.
Maybe doesn't have the same insight that Jamarius's mom Kimberly does. She has coached. She's also a referee. And the Burton family also all about basketball. We enjoyed our visit with Jamarius this morning as well. As Paul Jerome Hall heads to the free throw line. 6'10" junior from Spartanburg, South Carolina. And he'll get the bonus. Well, we have a college basketball triple header tomorrow afternoon on ESPN and the app, and we're featuring the first two games. Number 24, Ohio State squaring off against Maryland in a big one in the Big Ten at 1 Eastern. Then number 2, Houston is in Cincinnati taking on the Bearcats in the AAC.
Purdue is the best team in the Big Ten. At the end of the year, I think Ohio State is going to be number 2.
Well, that freshman class is something else, and Bryce Sensabaugh is one of the best bucket-getting freshmen in the country. Well, there's the skill of Guillermo we've been hearing about. Put it on the deck, broke down the defense, and helped get Sabandi an open look. He just couldn't make it.
Would love to see a 2-for-1 opportunity for Clemson if they go quick.
I always wish they did that more in college like they do in the NBA. Foul, they say, on the floor as Hunter Tyson tried to dunk again.
Watch the ball. He lost it. And how can that not be a bucket?
How can it not be a bucket and a shooting foul? It should be an and one here.
I think that maybe they called it on the floor before the dribble.
And it is Hunter Tyson for one shot.
We talked a little bit about the fact that Jamarius Burton had that 31 against North Carolina. How about the fact that Hunter Tyson had 31 and 15 against NC State right before New Year's? The last Tiger to do that, Horace Grant.
It's pretty good. Horace Grant, arguably the greatest of all Clemson Tigers. When you have any discussion about some of the greats in this program's history, Horace is involved in every discussion. Well, here is the younger, shorter Diaz-Graham twin at 6'11". Jorge rattles it home.
Yeah, I bet they've had some fierce one-on-one games over the year. It may have started in the crib with a Nerf hoop. You never know.
Well, that would have been back in the Canary Islands. Spanish islands off the coast of Northwest Africa.
They don't have Nerf hoops in the Canary Islands.
Are you sure about that?
I'm pretty sure.
Okay. Well, younger brother makes a pair of free throws. They are the 9th set of Pitt basketball brothers. The last, the Antiguas, back in the late 90s, Orlando and Oliver. Chase Hunter with the basketball for Clemson, down by 2. Ball hands it off to Galloway, to Tyson, now with 10 on the shot clock. Chase Hunter puts up the 3 ball. It's no good. Galloway with the putback no, and soaring in is the freshman R.J. Godfrey. 5 seconds left in the half. Elliott with the dribble, gives it up. The shot beats the buzzer and goes through for Pittsburgh. Calmly done by Nate Santos, the sophomore from Geneva, Illinois, and that gives Pittsburgh the lead heading into the locker room. The folks you will see 8 days ago here in this building, or rather, excuse me, the last time out when he went for 31 points, 26 of them came in the second half. for Clemson. So like Pittsburgh, which has been a second half team this year, Clemson has those tendencies as well. Nelly Cummings with 6 to shoot in a tough spot. Hinson comes to him and puts up an air ball.
And here's a big warning for Clemson fans, though. Pitt has been really good in the second half. They dropped 45 on UVA in the second half, 42 against North Carolina. They get better as the game goes on.
And in both of those games, they were down by as many as 9 points in the second half against ranked opponents before coming back to win those games. Playing from 2 points up now, make it 4 points up. Jamarius Burton now with 16 to lead all scorers. This is the largest lead of the ball game for the Panthers. Hall and Federico banging inside. They get it into Hall.
I like the idea of trying to push the tempo against Clemson. That way you can maybe hit before they get set up, because their half-court defense is really good.
Hinson again off the front rim. It went halfway down and then trickled off the iron.
One of the underrated skills that I've come to appreciate watching Clemson in person is they're very good at contesting shots.
Chase Hunter. After a quiet first half, young man averaging 14.5 per game. Draws the Tigers back to within 2.
If Pittsburgh gets on a little run, I wouldn't be surprised if Brad Brownell goes to some 2-3 zone just to give a different look.
Hinson runs into Hall, and the foul is called. I think it's going to go against the freshman Ian Shefflin. He and Hall both tried to wall up. But you're going against guys, Blake Hinson in this case, who know how to get their shot off and know how to draw contact.
6'7", 230, all kinds of skills. He spent 2 years in the SEC at Ole Miss. Big producer. He was a double-figure scorer in that year. And when you think about what these players are going to do someday, I got some bad news. He said that he wants to be a sports analyst, a basketball broadcaster. Great. He's very
nice working with you, Tim.
Oh, I hate hearing that.
Well, Blake, we talked about his football roots and the fact that he was recruited heavily by SEC schools as a tight end. His father, Denny, was a 6'5" standout in basketball in the 90s, both at UCF and at Indiana State. Had a number of stops as an assistant coach in Division I basketball. And I asked Blake, at what point were you able to beat your dad, Denny, one-on-one? And he said, I still haven't beaten him because my dad hasn't played me since I was 16 because dad knows what's coming. His dad's no fool.
Don't dunk on your dad. That's rude.
Brevin Galloway buries the 3. Out of this Clemson starting lineup, he is the only one who doesn't shoot it at a rate that really jumps at you. Brevin at 33%, part of a marvelous shooting perimeter attack for the Tigers.
Galloway's an interesting player. What did you say his age is?
He is 25 years old.
Well, to put that in perspective, he's older than Trae Young, Jason Tatum, and Luka Doncic.
There's another one of the older folks, experienced players in this game. Greg Elliott having a nice game. Federico may have gotten a piece of that on the way up, and indeed he did, and he was the last to touch, so Clemson will keep with 24 seconds on the shot clock.
If I was going to pick any player that I knew would make a jump shot, I would choose Greg Elliott. His form is textbook. You know what he does? Like a gymnast that comes off the balance beam, he lands in his footprints. Like he sticks the landing on his shot. I think it's such an underrated skill.
And they use him, Pittsburgh does, along that baseline. He works from one corner to the other, and if you lose track of him, he's likely to knock down that shot.
That's a shooting foul.
Ben Middlebrooks, sophomore from Fort Lauderdale, at the free throw line. next Saturday. The Panthers and the Tigers are on ACC Network. Pitt will square off against Georgia Tech at 3 Eastern, and then Clemson will host number 16 Duke at Little John Arena. And it'll be interesting to see if the Blue Devils are still ranked at that point. They did win today in Boston College, but only by a point. And this is a topsy-turvy ACC. Yes, Clemson and Pittsburgh, the only two remaining unbeatens. Everybody else, for the most part, has at least 2 losses, including Duke.
Doug, one of the most under-talked about subjects in college basketball. I'm fascinated with the transition with Coach K not being there anymore and the impact on the players, the staff, and all of college basketball. It's been completely silent. Duke is so much different. I think that they're going to be very good by the end of the year, but they've got a ways to go.
There's former Duke associate head coach Jeff Capel, who is a terrific player as a Blue Devil as well. Has one of the most iconic shots in program history.
You said he's a hero when he goes back there, right?
Well, you know what? When Jason Capel, his younger brother, goes back to Chapel Hill, he is greeted as a hero, former Tar Heel, and his big brother who played down the road on Tobacco Road at Duke is similarly greeted when he goes back to Cameron Indoor. It's a neat basketball family. We talk about the families and how from generation to generation the sport is passed down. The Capel certainly have that as much as anybody.
I just wonder about the conversations when they were growing up at the dinner table, breaking down, trapping defenses and the diamond press.
Federico off the dime from Nelly Cummings. First 2 points for the sophomore from Finland.
His teammates call him Fetty, but when he does work down low, we're going to give him that respect and give him the full Federico.
Now the First Love Academy in Washington, PA. There's Middlebrooks, 5 minutes into the second half. Federico gets a piece, Middlebrooks again, and he's going to have a chance for 3. It looked like Blake Hinson is going to pick up the foul. Timeout here at the Pitt, at the Pete. Clemson and Pittsburgh battling early here in the second half. Monday, TCU takes on Georgia, the defending champs in the College Football Playoff National Championship game presented by AT&T. Coverage begins at 7:30 Eastern on ESPN. Doug Sherman with Tim McCormick, and I'm sorry to bring that up, Tim. As a University of Michigan alumnus, I know you don't want to hear that matchup.
I called Delta yesterday and canceled my refundable flight. I was so disappointed. Look, Michigan, I think they could have beaten Georgia, but if you can't beat TCU, then you don't belong there. And Georgia is going to run. I think that they're going to be dominant.
Yeah, I'm picking the Bulldogs as well. ESPN.com had us pick before the playoff who we'd win, and I'm sorry I picked the Horned Frogs over your Wolverines.
Wow.
I apologize.
That's a good call. Look, if Michigan has 2 pick sixes and they get the ball twice on the 2-yard line and they get 0 points and lose by less than a touchdown, I don't sleep at night anymore.
No, I know, I understand. I get it. So instead of being there in person rooting on your Wolverines saying go blue, you'll be back home watching it with the rest of us on Monday night. Here is Nelly Cummings for the Pitt Panthers. Jamarius Burton off the jack step. 3 to shoot. Hinson with the contested 3. No problem. My goodness, even with Hunter Tyson right in his grill.
Plus 12 from beyond the arc for Pitt. That's the reason they have a lead right now. They are out shooting Clemson, who is really the best team in the ACC shooting the ball.
Pitt's also had quite an advantage in fast break points, 9-0 so far in the game. But as we showed you coming out to start the second half, Clemson has done its best work in the paint for this very good perimeter shooting team. And finding the range is Josh Beadle after he missed a couple in the first half. He says, don't forget about me. Cummings finds some space. That's a nice looking shot. That is a veteran former All-Patriot League player at Colgate who knows how to play the game.
The other thing that Cummings does, very high assist-turnover ratio. He seems to understand what his team needs and delivers.
Fourth in the ACC in assist to turnover, nearly 2.5 to 1. Brevin Galloway turns down the shot, finds Hunter Tyson for 3.
Now we're seeing some exceptional offense. Brad Brownell said that when you play Pitt offensively, what they want to do, swing it side to side, then swing it side to side again, then go to work.
Double team on Hinson. Lost it on the way up on second effort, missed the rim. Good stand defensively inside for the Tigers. Chase Hunter left the ground thinking he was going to dunk it, and he'll head to the line to shoot 2 after Federico fouled him.
So you like point guard play, huh? Well, I've got some good stuff to show you here. There's the mid-range shot. Shoot it over the shot blocker. Great lower body control. Tyson from deep. Great form. He's got great confidence and swagger. I've got something, Doug, I want to share with you. I want you to keep an eye on it. And I've noticed it from both of these teams. Because they have so many upperclassmen, they're very advanced defensively. And I learned a lot about defense from watching Bo Ryan's teams at Wisconsin. The best defensive teams cover with their hips and their legs. They really do a lot of their best defensive work from the ground up. I'm seeing a ton of that both ways from Pittsburgh and Clemson.
Okay, and that is coached, correct? I mean, that doesn't just happen.
Young defensive players use their arms and their hands. Older players learn to use leverage, hips cutting off angles, and really being good on the scouting report. Both these teams are making their opponent go to their left.
Burton lost his footing, but a foul is called on Brevin Galloway.
When I think of Pittsburgh defensively, I think of Ben Howland. What a great coach he was. You think of, the fact that Jamie Dixon was so good defensively. Do you think these guys even know that Pitt used to play in the Big East?
The players know. Even though they are older, I mean, it's been a decade, more than a decade since Pitt was in the Big East and since Jamie Dixon had it rolling. And Dixon left, in 2016? So it's been a while. Dixon was here for the transition to the ACC. But no, I assume these players don't remember that. Brevin Galloway off the front rim. Santos, who hit a jump shot right before the halftime buzzer, clears the rebound for Pitt.
I smile when I think of Big Monday.
Yeah, I miss it. I miss those days. Bill Raftery, Jay Billis, Sean McDonough. From the seat of his pants, Burton gets the rebound. And now is begging for the ball back.
He should have shot it.
Cummings picks up another assist on the 3-ball from Guillermo Diaz-Graham.
Let me say it again. These teams are tied for first place in the ACC.
Another chance off the offensive rebound. Galloway no. Hunter with the rebound, and he'll bring it back out with the shot clock reset once again to 20. Chase Hunter is fouled. It is so nice to have the bounce back at the Peterson Event Center for this game between Pitt and Clemson, doing it in different ways. The Panthers and the Tigers playing a good one for first place in the ACC. Just as we all expected here in this second week of January, Clemson and Pittsburgh playing each other for the spot of sole possession. Clemson and Pittsburgh playing for sole possession of first place in the ACC.
And you predicted that before the season,
sure,
right?
Sure, me and all the other media people and coaches.
Well, I will say this, that Miami and Virginia are the best teams that I've seen this year. And I think that everybody would agree that North Carolina and Duke have the most talent. But one of these teams here on this court will go to bed tonight feeling really good about being 5-0, undefeated, with sole possession of first place. And what a nice job so far by Chase Hunter. You look at his size. He's a big point guard, super athletic. 8 points, 3 rebounds, 2 assists, 0 turnovers, and this is his first year as a lead point guard. Oh, and he's also got to cover their best player. And look at the adjustment. First time we've seen 2-3 zone, and it's really extended. Good opportunities to drive for Pitt. Got a mismatch inside.
Trying to find Guillermo Diaz-Graham, the 7-footer. Instead, they go to the corner, and Santos has it rim out. Long rebound back to number 5.
The big mismatch in this game is that Clemson struggles on the defensive glass, and Pitt is a killer in the offensive rebound department.
Yeah, outside of Hunter Tyson, who's averaging 10 rebounds per game, the other Clemson guys usually need to pick it up. Jamarius Burton now with 20 points. He's got Pitt back in front. And after having only 1 lead change in the first half, we've already had 5 here in the second half. Needle into the post. Tough shot. Ball has it rim out.
You know, when I made my All-ACC team, I'm feeling better about Jamarius Burton being on there.
Well, of course you are. My goodness. Averaging 16 points, 5 rebounds, 4 assists, shooting it at 44% from the arc.
Remember, he said he studies the play of Damar of the Chicago Bulls, always seeking contact, trying to get a little bit closer. And his mom was his coach when he was growing up. In one of their first games, he was really upset and frustrated, was crying. His mom said, "Stop crying, we're here to win a ball game."
We're not here to play, we are here to win.
No nonsense.
And he says a lot of the things that his mom tells him, he finds himself telling his teammates later. Ball on the floor on the rebound. Good position inside by Santos. As Shefflin picks up the foul. That is his 4th personal. And the 5th against Clemson here in the second half. 9:41 remaining in regulation. And as you see on the score there, on the bug, Clemson 4-0, Pittsburgh 4-0, the only 2 unbeatens left in the ACC this season. Santos from the left corner. A little strong. Long rebound, grabbed by the long arms of Guillermo Diaz-Graham.
There's a lot of people watching this game thinking that these teams are pretenders. Doug, it's not true. This is a really high-level game. Both these teams have played well.
Burton. Well, Joe Lunardi has Pittsburgh in the field of 68 this week as an 11 seed. They went a week ago from being completely off the bubble on the other side to being off the bubble on the good side thanks to back-to-back come-from-behind wins against top 25 opponents. Meanwhile, Clemson is just on the other side of the bubble.
If Joe says it, I believe it, and that clearly went off Chase Hunter's hand.
And in spite of that, Clemson keeps possession. Let's see if the Tigers take advantage of the break. P.J. Hall steps into the lane, and a foul is called against Guillermo Diaz-Graham. Well, if Joey Brackets says it, as you say, Tim, it must be true.
I'm not a bracketologist, but I am a bubble master, and I started studying very close, and I believe that both of these teams look like NCAA. You know, you can take into account, especially with this Pittsburgh team, that they got off to a horrendous start. They were blown out by West Virginia. I watched the Michigan game in which they were annihilated by 31 points. And then all of a sudden a tough loss to VCU. Since then they've won 10 of 11. This is an older team. This should not be a surprise. The high screen roll has been the best set in the middle third of the court. There may be rim run opportunities inside for Federico if they run it again.
Burton going to try to work on P.J. Hall. Back out to Elliott, spotting it, and he buries the triple. The Marquette grad transfer, as you said, Tim, if he's open, he's going to knock down that shot. Foul off the ball. Federico winds up standing over P.J. Hall and picks up the foul.
Notice the spacing. The best time to knock down a three is off a delivery from inside. Why? Doug, when you're growing up, you go in the backyard with your dad or your coach, and they just feed the ball from where? Under the basket or from the wing. That's where players shoot the majority of their shots. That's exactly where Greg Elliott wanted the ball, right at the middle.
Elliott now in double figures. Pittsburgh's lead is 3. And a foul against the Clemson Tigers. And no surprise, it's on the precocious freshman from Sewanee, Georgia, R.J. Godfrey. Well, R.J. is best friends with his younger brother, Grant, who is 6'3" and a senior outside linebacker at North Gwinnett High School in Atlanta, who is signed with the Kentucky Wildcats to play football next year.
Plenty of star power. Burton with the ball is a great playmaker. Hinson as well. Those two average 33 points a game.
Hinson draws the foul and will shoot 2. 62-59, Pittsburgh hanging on with under 8 minutes to play. Clemson 59 back at the Peterson Event Center with Tim McCormick. I'm Doug Sherman. And Tim, what have the Tigers done so well here today to be in position to maybe win this game?
I think that their work on the defensive glass has been stellar. When you think about Pitt, they're punishing in earlier games this year. When you look at the South Carolina loss, Clemson gave up 19 offensive rebounds. They got beat by Iowa and gave up 17 offensive rebounds. So far in this game, it's been pretty even points off the glass, and Pitt only has 8 offensive rebounds total.
Been a clean second half so far. Both teams playing well pretty much from the start. And we have gotten out of this matchup so far what we were hoping, a competitive game between the two remaining unbeatens in ACC play.
And please don't be surprised by the fact that Pittsburgh's playing their best ball in the second half against Virginia. It was a second half clinic. No turnovers done the whole game in the second half, and they scored 45 points. That was the reason they won.
Hunter Tyson Pittsburgh comes away with the ball. Nice job by Hinson to get it to Sabandi. Finds the trailing Santos, who thought about it, now brings it back out to Sabandi. Burton comes for the basketball and has it.
You're going to get a steady diet of Hinson and Burton down the stretch of this game, as it should be.
Burton to the corner. Santos again from the corner. Misses the 3 off the front iron.
Here's the defensive dilemma for Pitt. You're scared to death of Clemson's three-point shooting. If you extend the defense, they have the ability to put the ball on the floor and get to the rim.
Clemson has gone cold at this end. No field goals still for 6 minutes and counting. And an over-the-back foul against Godfrey.
When Godfrey knocked down a couple of three-pointers against Virginia Tech, you could see from the look on Mike Young's face that that's not in the scouting report. And if he starts making threes, that's not even fair.
Well, the only 2 made threes of his college career for Godfrey came on Wednesday at Castle Coliseum, a game the Tigers won 68-65. They had 5 in double figures, including the freshman who sits down with those fouls.
Godfrey has star written all over him.
At 6'7", 225, he doesn't look like your typical freshman, Tim.
Well, what happens when he goes through the strongman training that Clemson does every summer? They push Ford F-150s and they lift heavy bags and carry them around campus.
And apparently this past summer, Hunter Tyson won that award, and P.J. Hall says the only reason I didn't win was because I was rehabbing from surgery. Otherwise, I would have won, said P.J.
Notice the spacing. No Pitt players in the paint until they go shoot.
Burton leans in to draw the foul, and he will head back to the free throw line.
What a year for Jamarius Burton. He's an attack guard, a get-to-the-rim guy. 5th year of college basketball. Spent 2 years at Wichita State, 1 year at Texas Tech, and he handles his business like a pro. Doug, when we were watching at shoot-around, he went through, there was no joking, there was no laughing, they had some music, no singing by Burton. Then after a lot of the players left to get their pregame meal, he went through a very specific routine of shots that he would take in the game. He came over and talked to us like a pro, great handshake, really good eye contact, gets his treatment. I mean, this is a guy that has been mentored and tutored, and somebody taught him how to act like a pro.
You mentioned singing. I did hear Nellie Cummings singing pregame. He's got a pretty nice voice.
I heard Greg Elliott, too. If these guys don't turn out to be pros someday, there you go. They've got a musical history
perhaps
in the future.
Now, Ian Shefflin is fouled out of the game for Clemson. There he is, after taking the seat with 6:07 remaining. Burton is a 78% free throw shooter on the year. And he makes it a 6-point Pittsburgh lead with 6 minutes to go.
Pittsburgh has been the better defensive team, especially in the second half. Clemson's offense is not working.
Hunter has to pull it out. Galloway. A charge is called against the BC grad transfer. And Pittsburgh will get the ball back with a chance to build on their largest lead of the game.
Watch the defense below the waist. They keep cutting off with their legs, moving and getting in front. And trust me, that hurts to take that charge right in the chest.
Burton going one-on-one on the low post. Lost it, and a foul is called against Chase Hunter. And Hunter does not like the call. That was made by Greg Evans. And so that is his 3rd personal foul.
I'm trying to think of a word that describes Burton. Here it is. What do you think, Doug? Macho.
Okay.
He's a macho ball player.
Well, we hear this thrown around. I think junkyard dog. I mean, he's that kind of ball player. And I just enjoy, as we've talked about for the last hour and 45 minutes, the way Hinson and Burton attack the game of basketball.
And as long as we're talking old school Big East basketball, we got to throw Georgetown in there and the original JYD, Jerome Williams. Now with Jerome, I would have said he's a manly player. But yeah, I like macho, I like manly, I like JYD.
A couple of free throws for number 11 in white. He's going off again here today. Give him 24 points. Again, the largest lead for Pitt on an 8-0 run.
Did you ever think at the beginning of the year you'd hear a crowd like this in the Peterson?
No. And it is quieted for the moment by Chase Hunter. And Clemson uses a timeout to talk things over, having drawn back to within 5 with 5:19 on the clock.
Naturello has organic broccoli, blue.
Blake Hinson and Jamarius Burton continue to stamp themselves as one of the great 1-2 punches in the ACC this year.
A double dilemma for Clemson is dealing with Hinson and Burton because they can impact the game in so many ways. They're studs in transition. They've got mid-range, they've got three-point ability, and they're also unselfish and willing to get their teammates involved. Remember, the top 6 players for Pitt are all older, mature players that have transferred in.
Once again, the winner will take sole possession of first place in the ACC, moving to 5-0 in league play. Pass stolen by Chase Hunter. First turnover of the second half by the Panthers.
I'd like to see Hall try to get more involved. I know that Federico's a shot blocker, but go side to side and get him a shot.
Hunter cross court. Good look for Galloway. Clemson is 1 for its last 9. Great burst by Jamarius Burton.
know what else to say. I've used all my superlatives. This guy is just a killer off the dribble. Always playing in attack mode.
He suffered a torn ACL way back in 2016 when he was in high school. At that point, a lot of the high major recruitment went away. A chance for three for P.J. Hall. Well, Tim, just as you said, Clemson needs to make sure that man is involved on the offensive end.
Hall has a lot of all-league ability as well. If you go around the ACC and you talk to the coaches and ask about P.J. Hall, they're all going to say the same thing. I'd love to have that guy on my team. You know, whether he's a starter, a scorer, a key rebound, he just knows how to play and he takes care of his business.
Well, on the eve of his season beginning, he was at his older sister Thayer's wedding. She got married November 6th to Major League left-hander Ryan Weathers, but because PJ was still rehabbing from surgery, he was going to miss that opening night game anyhow. They worked him back into the lineup, still not 100%, but his minutes are not being managed anymore. Ellie Cummings left it short, and there is Hall strong for the rebound. Under 3.5 minutes remaining. Hall hands it off. Hunter spins into the lane, goes back to his left, and banks it home. Clemson back within 2.
Clemson is so good using those elbow screens, and I'm sure that Jeff Capel is saying to himself, okay guys, we don't want to be so patient. We've got to run our offense. Don't change things.
Chase Hunter has adjusted well to being a point guard this year, but he's still got that scoring gene. Clemson led by as many as 10 points in the first half. Pitt led by 2 at the break and have built the lead to as many as 8. But for the most part, Tim McCormick, this has been a highly competitive game with neither team seizing control.
2 older teams that understand defense. So much at stake. Well, once again, I've got the ACC standings here, and it shocks me because over the years we've come to see North Carolina and Duke up there, and Virginia and Miami certainly worthy to be on top. But this game right here, in 3 minutes and 12 seconds, we are going to have a team that's 5-0 and in first place all by themselves, and I would expect a ranking for the winner of this game on Monday.
Ellie gets a good look but can't get the roll. Clemson with a chance to retie or retake the lead with under 3 to play.
I would try to get something on the perimeter with Hall because that pulls the defense away from the basket, especially Federico. Right here's an opportunity to go inside.
Freshman Chauncey Wiggins has come into the game for Clemson. And they go to Hall against a double team. Federico blocks the first attempt. Now to the freshman, Wiggins with a huge shot off the window to tie things up.
Biggest Tiger basket of this game. Ladies and gentlemen, we're tied up with 2:22 to go.
Wiggins averages 1.5 points per game, barely plays on a regular basis, and Coach Brownell calls his number at the right time. He clears the defensive glass, and now Clemson can retake the lead.
This needs to be a long 5-pass possession. Get everybody involved. You get a little bit tired at the end of the game. Maybe Pitt will break down and give you an open shot.
It's been a quiet second half for Hunter Tyson. This is Galloway. 71-69 Clemson. Offensive foul against Burton.
Beautiful delivery. 2 defenders in the paint. And getting to the rim. Nice delivery. Wow.
Wonderful balance for Clemson offensively with 4 in double figures today. They are playing now without Ian Shefflin. The freshman fouled out with under 90 seconds left in regulation. Out of bounds. It'll stay right where we are. So Bandy was the last to touch.
Let me point out once again, if you drive and you're Clemson, they shoot 39% from 3. That's the best in the ACC.
Timeout. Clemson here at the Pitt.
Do you have an invention idea but don't know what to do next? Go to inventhelp.com to get started today. We have representatives nationwide who will explain the InventHelp process step by step. Over 10,000 patents have been secured through InventHelp's patent referral services. The InventHelp Databank includes thousands of companies who have agreed to review new ideas. We've been helping inventors since 1984. Let's help you next. Get started today. Go to inventhelp.com for free information.
Clemson 71, Pittsburgh 69. Take another look at the foul drawn by P.J. Hall going against Jamarius Burton.
Doing some film work in preparation for this game. The thing that stands out the most about Clemson's defense is their physical. If you play for Brad Brownell, you're going to be a man-to-man guy. And to take that charge is just, it's so important. Remember, Clemson is not a great shot blocking team, but the charge acts exactly the same as a block.
Hall. In and out, everything but the bucket. Clemson on a 9-0 run after having gone over 5 minutes without a field goal. Burton, tough shot. Over Hall. 71-71.
This totally feels like overtime to me.
Chase Hunter draws the contact and scores over Nike Savandi. Clemson back in front.
Middle screen game is the best part of their offense. I'd run it again with Federico and see if you can get a lob opportunity for him.
Here it comes. Federico sets the screen. Burton blocked by Hall. Shot clock at 10. 24 seconds remaining in regulation. Pitt's got to go with 3 seconds to the lob, and no, Federico could not corral it. Clemson has it. Pitt's got to give up the foul. Clemson playing keep away. And now the foul is given by Blake Hinson.
Tyson is not the guy you want to foul. This is a veteran player that can really stroke the ball. Pitt got the shot that they wanted. I thought that could have been a foul. Clear out against the guard. There's the lob threat we called for. 30-second timeout.
30-second timeout. Back with some big free throws from Hunter Tyson.
At Public Rec, we're on a mission to make comfort look good. It starts with our best-selling all-day, everyday pant. A first-of-its-kind technical pant that's more comfortable than jeans and more stylish than sweats. The secret is in the sizing. With Public Rec, you can choose your waist and length to guarantee a perfect fit. So you can be comfortable and feel confident always. The all-day, everyday pant by Public Rec.
The possession arrow belongs to Clemson, and they have the ACC's second leading free throw shooter, Hunter Tyson, going to the line at 89%. Number 2 only to North Carolina's R.J. Davis. He has had a quiet second half, but nonetheless, Tim, it's just, oh, by the way, another double-double. 13 points, 10 rebounds for the man at the line.
The beautiful thing is you want your captain and your leader with the game on the line to be first place in the ACC alone.
Hamlin, the graduate student from Monroe, North Carolina, quiets the Oakland Zoo.
This makes it a 2-possession game if he makes this one.
The Tigers are in the driver's seat.
Something to the rim and now foul.
Burton. Down to go. Savandi for 3 with 2 to play. He makes it. Clock stops with 9/10 of a second. And they will go back and see if any time should be put back on that clock. first bucket of the ball game from Nike Sabandi makes it 75-74.
A lot of credit for the drive and kick by Burton. Nice recognition. They were going to need a three at some point. Now, whether it's 0.9 or maybe a little bit more, the ball game is basically over if you're able to get to your teammate a touch and there's not enough time. You got to be able to somehow get a tip, but I don't see any way that in this situation here that Clemson is not going to be able to get the ball about. You know, this might be an opportunity to just throw it the length of the court.
Right, as long as you don't throw it out of bounds untouched, that's the thing to do if you're in trouble. If you don't have anybody open immediately, just throw it to the backcourt, and Pittsburgh won't be able to do anything about it. The last time Pittsburgh beat Clemson was all the way back in January of 2014. Pittsburgh won that game 76-43. The Tigers trying to get away with a thrilling road win here today.
Prior to today, Clemson had beaten Pitt 9 straight times by an average of 16 points. Being able to put length on the ball with Guillermo Diaz-Graham. Your best target right now at the other end is Hall.
With 1.1 on the clock, if Clemson can inbound it, there's the toss. It's knocked by Sabandi into Galloway's hands, and Clemson sits alone atop the Atlantic Coast Conference.
What a gutsy performance. Second half, things weren't going well for Clemson offensively.